cloud. All right. So welcome everybody. Tonight we are focusing on our SPE and kind of our submissions. We did have a training back at the beginning of June that Doug McLean did. It was about our PMG programming. If you do not have access to that, I did ask the state board to put it on the JCI Michigan website. I can walk through that towards the end. It's not letting me log in right now, but I can kind of briefly give you an idea where the training library is. But tonight's focus is kind of part 2 of that. We're going to kind of talk about what an SPE is, which stands for single project entry. We are going to talk about the portions of that SPE and what's really important, and some tips and tricks on how to best prepare both the written and the presentation part. Just a reminder, submissions are due July 9th at 11:59 p.m. From there, once submissions are done, we will have presentations of both skill building and our SPE presentation, or this oral part of the SPE on July 15th. We will be starting that at 10 a.m. It's about we have it blocked off from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I don't know that I will necessarily need all that time, but we always want to make sure we give sufficient time for individuals to present, individuals to be asked questions, and also sometimes we do have minor conflicts and we do try to best accommodate. But we also want to make sure that we are thinking of our judges that are taking time out of their day. And we also do that so that all presentations are presented on the same day, so there's not the ability to kind of be at a disadvantage or anything like that. Again, this is the programming team. Krista's here with us tonight. Mariah will be joining us, at least that's what we are told. She just had, unfortunately, a little hiccup that caused her to be delayed. So the best way to get a hold of us is we're all of us are on Facebook and reachable through that way, but our programs at jcimich.org is the best way to get a hold of us. Again, that's jcimi.org. And again, the first part is programs, programs, Grams. Okay. Yes, I still have to spell things out and write them. I apologize, just for fun. So tonight, let's get started. I am going to start sharing my screen, kind of showing a little bit about the SPE process. We are going to focus some on the JCI Mich website, help you kind of navigate, understand. There is already a training up that the programming team did last year. We did kind of a submissions training. Our submissions are working exactly the same way this year. Again, I'll briefly touch on that, but the at-length submission process is really contained within that video. And again, we'll kind of talk about how to log on. I know sometimes our website does have some minor glitches, but be patient or email us and we can help get that information to you. So first thing I kind of want to go over is just kind of some of the basics with the SPE. Again, SPE stands for single project entry. This is something that we do in semester breakdowns. So a single project entry is projects or events that our wonderful local chapters have done throughout the years. We submit them biannually, and biannually we have January through June, which is what we call semester 1. Our semester 1 will end tomorrow, June 30th at 11:59 p.m. So any projects that the chapter has run from January 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2023, or whatever other year we're dealing with, if this goes on for other people to use, we run that. And then July 1 through December 31st is going to be the second semester projects. We're really going to focus on first semester. Everybody always wants to know, well, what's grading? How do I do this? How am I going to know how to be prepared? You know, I've never presented, right? All those things are probably crossing your mind if you haven't done 1,000 of these, 2 of these, or 6 of them. So we grade our single project entries kind of in 2 phases. We have a written resume. We also have a presentation portion. So let's talk about the written resume. This is kind of what focuses on our project management guide, which again, we did a training earlier in the month. There's a few spots that you can find the actual resume. You can go to the submissions page, which again, this is jcimi.org. See it up in the corner, and then there's drop-down menus. So specifically, you would go to the programs and you can drop down to submissions, or we also have the ability to go to members, resources, and you have the local chapter single project entry site. So I'm going to take us there first because I think that's important. I think it's a good overview and it kind of gives us some ways to navigate. So again, member resources, use the drop-down menu and you'll do the local chapter single project entry. When that page loads, you will have the luxury of being able to kind of see what a single project entry is and the multiple different categories. Now, last year, we made the decision to align with JCI USA, specifically in their program categories. And this is, I think, beneficial for two reasons. One, it kind of aligns us more with JCI USA, and also a lot of our projects, because we are Michigan and we do put on amazing projects, we like to push on and submit to this nationals to say, like, this local project did so well. But the other reason I want to draw our attention to this is each project has what we say, like, kind of a category it fits in. And depending on what your project is, really depends on what your category it falls under. So there are 9 categories. Each of the categories are listed on this website and on this page. It will tell you, as you can see, kind of an overview of what it is. So let's look at local economic development program. These are programs conducted with the goals of creating, increasing, or improving business and economic opportunity and/or productivity in the local community. Also, this includes strategic planning projects, programs conducted to raise funds to pay for the operations and expenses of the local JCI chapter. This is really focusing on a project that is coming back to our chapter. Money is coming back to the chapter. So a lot of people like, oh, hey, we did this amazing project and we helped raise profits for this really cool local nonprofit. So one of the things like JCI Michigan or Muskegon does, Greater Muskegon does, is we have a paper bag auction. And part of that paper bag auction is all the funds we raise goes to our community encompass Christmas tree store. It's a great program. It's an economic program, but it's not raising funds for the chapter. It's raising funds specifically for that outside organization. Again, not that it's not a great project, but that is not what we're focused on. We're focusing on really the fundraising for your local projects to come back to the chapter. Now, that's not dictating how the chapter spends the money, but the intention is not that it's only coming to the chapter for us to instantly push out to another nonprofit, another business, something like that. So again, the nice thing about this website and this page specifically is it breaks down what each of these categories are. And one of the things, and I'll go through the grading as we finish talking, one of the things that as the individual who grades these projects, and we usually have a team of 3, they try to see, did you pick the right category that your project should fit in? I think there are multiple times that a lot of these categories can overlap. And really what I encourage is pick the best possible project category for you. But if you pick this project category and you are raising funds for the community or community encompass Christmas tree store, it's not in the right area. The other nice thing is nationals, when they put their kind of like guide together, they gave you examples. So we have put through examples. We've talked about different kind of things that we've done in regards to the judging criteria. And again, that's more in line with JCI USA. And I told you we'd focus on making sure you see grading sheets. I will be very transparent. The programming team doesn't mind sharing the grading score. We're not and when I say grading scores, I mean the sheets, so that you can kind of see what you're going to be judged on, what's going on. We're not here to blindside you. We're not trying to have some top secret. Really, the whole point of a single project entry is to encourage the chapters to talk about how great their projects are that they're running locally. Allowing that chair or whoever's presenting it the opportunity to grow in multiple different areas. You have a written portion, which is not always my favorite area. Spelling did not work for me. It's fine. Spell check does. And then you have the ability to present. Look, we all have different areas of strengths and weaknesses. This isn't something that is like, oh, hey, you aren't super boisterous and loud, and so therefore, why are you presenting? That's not at all what we're looking for here. So there are different areas, and like I said, we'll share those, and I have no problem personally handing them out if you want to reach out and I say, hey, we'd really like to see what this looks like. Now, I'm not going to share your current grades or scores or anything. We do provide feedback after awards are given out, but I do want you to know that it's here. So again, we talked about there's 9 categories. I'm going to slowly scroll. We have different, again, long-term local community development programs, local community empowerment programs, and then local corporate social responsibilities, United Nations sustainable goals, and best local peace project. Understand, chapters don't have to submit something under every category. We are just acknowledging there are 9 categories at the national level, and we want to make sure you're kind of fitting your project in the best thing, because at the end of the day, when the year comes to a close, we have the ability to submit so many projects. Just because you might not have won at semester 1 does not mean your project is not worthy of getting a, hey, do you want to submit for nationals? Because nationals does allow us to submit more than 1 project for each area. So keep that in mind. Even if you're like, oh man, this is just not even going to be my year, I didn't do it well. We're not here to grade if you passed or failed on your project. We're here to grade on what your project was, why it's beneficial, how you grew, what you learned, and kind of just overall the presentation. The worst thing we can do is say, oh, I'm not submitting my project because, I didn't gain any new members. Look, part of running projects is understanding that sometimes it's not as successful as we want it to be, but we also grow and learn from that. At the bottom of the page, there is this area that says click here for the JCI Michigan PMG template. I'm not going to go into the PMG template. It was very stressed in our programming training at the beginning of the month. As I stated, we have the PMG training specifically for that. But if we go back up to the top of the page, we have the ability to do skill building and recognition programs. So if we click on recognition programs, oh, that's not the right one. I apologize. Submissions. I think that's one. Yes, I apologize. Submissions. Each area for skill building, single project entry, and chapter plan has their own area. The key here is when you want to get there to submit, which we'll talk about later, is it's focused on the actual picture, but your resources are here too. So again, we're talking about the single project entries. You have the ability to download that PMG that we talked about. We can download the current submission form template here, which is what we're talking about is the written part. And then again, checking out the page. So if we click this little handy dandy thing, it's going to download. I'm sure I'm going to have to learn how to screen share again. So let's find out. Thank you, DeMarcus and Krista, for being my guinea pig to tell me if it shows up. Give me 1 second. It hasn't popped up on mine. Do either of you see it? Okay, give me 1 second. New share. All right. Somewhere. There we go. What about now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So here is your written resume. Again, as we talked about the 9 areas, one of the things you want to do is go through and figure out, again, using that page, which area your chapter or project fits best under. You're going to check the box, click the box, highlight the box, depending on how savvy you are with these Word documents and, PDFs. I'm not always the best, but do whatever you need to draw attention to that. Sometimes people will almost erase the box, put an X next to it, highlight it, put a check mark. There's no right or wrong answer on that. We just need you to collect and check one. If you do the United Nations sustainable goals, there are, I believe, 13 sustainable goals. It is not that your project has to fit under every one. It is specifically one. Sometimes it fits under 2. Rarely is it going to fit under 3, 4, 5, and 6 different categories. Then, as we talked about in our PMG training, a lot of this stuff is very much found in what a PMG is. So the project name, the chapter that you are, the project chairs, your chair emails, the dates of the project. If it's one day, you put one day. If it's a weekend, you put, let's say like this weekend, June 30th through July 2nd. Put the date or dates down. Then you have kind of, as we go through, kind of walking. One of the things I do want to point out is, there is an asterisk that says, if you're confused on what we're asking in these boxes, specifically result and involvement, there is kind of like an answer key at the bottom. But when we say base number, that is the base number of January 1 of 2023 in this situation, or any base number of the beginning of the year. Each chapter, I'm sure, is a little different. Your president has access to those, and usually whoever runs your membership. So like in JCI Greater Muskegon, we are lucky enough to have a membership vice president. They have access to Glue Up. They will be able to tell you what the base number was in January. The other thing is if your chapter filled out a chapter plan at the beginning of the year, they would have also had kind of a membership area that would have said, this is how many members we had at the beginning of the year. This is how many members we plan on growing. So that is the idea, the base number. Now, if your base number came like January 15th, that's not a big deal. We're just not looking for your base number to be, oh, hey, there was 5 of us that planned this project. This isn't who planned the project. It's your base membership number. A lot of the reasons we run projects has a core of drawing more members in, recruiting more community partners, recruiting more people to have the fun that we get to have because we are members of this great organization. I think chapter JCs are pretty explanatory. Other JCs, so if, Krista comes and hangs out at our project or helps out, she's a JC, but she's not from our chapter at JCI Greater Muskegon, but we still get to count Krista as an other JC because she's still a JC. Non-JCs are your, community partners, your roosters, your senators, things like that, people that have are not active members, but did do and help with the project in some capacity. Some projects are bringing in income. Some projects are throwing out expenses. If your project doesn't have that because you're like, hey, I just put a project together where we all met at, the local Dave and Buster's or Craig's Cruisers or some kind of fun place where you can play games or do outside activities like go-karts and stuff. And it's like, hey, I just planned everything, but we didn't add any money to put out. We didn't cover anything. We just planned a big event and kind of was like, everybody's out to pay for themselves. Then you're not going to have incomes and expenses, but there is a possibility. So the first part is you're projected, right? Like this is what we hope to raise. This is what we intend to spend. And then we want you to tell us what actually happened. Look, we have a lot of high goals. We have a lot of, expectations. And sometimes we say, hey, we're only going to spend $100 on this project, but some hiccup happens and we only spend 75, or some hiccup happens and we spend 150. So this gives us the ability to actually put what was our final cost, what was our final income, what was our final expenses, how many members this project recruited, did we have any sponsors? Sponsors can be individuals, can be chapters, can be community partnerships, can be the Chamber of Commerce, the local politicians. There isn't like a set who needs to sponsor. So if you had a sponsorship, even if it's an in-kind donation, right? Sometimes you're lucky where people are like, hey, normally we charge $10 a car to park in this parking lot, but because you're doing such an amazing project or we're partnering, we're going to give it to you at $5. They're a sponsor. They're losing money on that in an aspect. They're cutting the cost because they're helping us. Or somebody that's like, hey, I can't really do much, but I can donate 500 bags with, my company logo on it so that you can stuff your bags. Those are sponsors. Don't forget those people too. Just because they did not sign their name on a dotted line to hand you cash money doesn't mean they're not sponsors. Think about things like that so you can acknowledge individuals. Plus, it hopefully will remind you to go back and form partnerships if you don't already have an active partnership with this individual. The next is kind of the outline of different parts of the project. Who benefited from the project? What was the primary purpose of the project? I'm house sitting. Give me 1 second. Please lay down. Please lay down. No, lay down. No, lay down. No, we're not playing. Go lay down. Hang on 1 second. Frankie, go. Okay, I apologize. Overview of the project. Again, describe the project in details, including the history or objective. If this is a brand new project, we're not going to have history. If this is something like Snowfest, we're 35 plus years into this project. There's a history. Parties in the Park, JCI Greater Muskegon was one of the original founders of that. Their history. Give us some background. What were the goals of this project? Was it to raise money? Was it to have a great community event that was free to the kids? Was it to bring 5 people to the table that are in different areas and be an inclusive partnership? So now we have new partners in the community. Anything is really possible. It just depends on what your primary goal of the project were. What steps were taken to complete this project? Describe the main roles of participating members in the project. Hey, Sam chaired the project. DeMarcus was the co-chair. Krista was our volunteer coordinator. What did they do? And how did they, help to kind of facilitate the project? Describe the actual community impact by the project. How did the local organization benefit from running this project? There's multiple different questions that are asked on these resumes. And really the focus is the intent is to talk about how amazing your project is, what you've done, how you've improved it, or if it's a brand new project, how you can improve it. But we're going to talk about presentations. And the key that I can give you with a written resume is this. Include enough for us to know what your project is, or the judges to know what your project is, and give us some ability to not know everything. Because when you want to present your project, you want to fill those gaps where people are going, okay, this is really cool, and I just want to know a little bit more. And so if you put everything you could possibly think of about your project in these questions, you leave nothing left to the imagination, nothing else we need to learn about the project. And it's almost like I could have read your written resume. And I think we've all been in that situation where, you're like, hey, write something up short about yourself. And then they come and they like, here's this 3-4 page thing about me. And then you're now presenting about me as the presenter. And it's like, well, I didn't learn anything new. I know everything. You wrote it all. So think about that while writing. There is the ability to really kind of give us an insight of what this project is, or the judges an insight what this project is, but make sure you have that ability to keep people guessing. Like, wait, I didn't get all the information. I also don't mean put 2 sentences and call it a day, because your presentation portion is 5 minutes. I don't know about you, but 5 minutes goes fast. And I sure do not want to miss the opportunity to tell you some really cool things about my project, because I wouldn't write them down because I was afraid that you would know everything. So find that happy balance. And I don't know that there's a perfect answer to what the happy balance is, but it's what your happy balance is. And it's what your ability to keep judges engaged when you're presenting. So there is a few questions. The last part of it, as you get towards the bottom of page 3, is the SPE category specific question. Again, we talked about this is kind of that secondary, why knowing what project category your project falls in is important. There's another one more question. So, and it gives you kind of a few really strong points they want you to hit. Again, you only answer the question that is in correspondent with the category your project falls under. You do not have to answer every question. Please do not spend time talking about how your program was an inter-organization collaboration project when it was really just a local economic development program. I don't need to know about that. The judges don't need to know about that. And it also makes you worry that they're not reading what they're putting, and we're just what I call diarrhea of the mouth. We're just throwing everything on the page just to make you like really excited about it. So that is most of what you're doing. Again, we talked about there's kind of the ability to talk about what each definition is. It's on the last page, which I believe is page 5. Also, when you're submitting, and like I said, we'll talk about submissions in a second, submit pictures. People want to know what is happening at these projects. It is great to hear someone tell you, oh my gosh, we did this amazing project. Like 300 people showed up and we were all playing in this big, like, what is it? The bubbles where like, you know how people are like, hey, we want to have bubbles. And we have this big like park of all the bubbles and everyone's having a great time. And, you know, the kids are having a great time. Okay, show us. Show us. We weren't there. We want to live this with you. We want to know why this is such a great project, why this is the best project out there, and why yours should be better than the chapter next door or the chapter across the state that's saying, yeah, we did this too. I think we all know that there's a handful of chapters that do something with Easter eggs. Why is your Easter egg project better than the next chapter? We don't want to say, oh gosh, they're all the same and they're so great. How do we pick a winner? Make yours the standout. Some of that helps by adding those photos. I know it sounds silly, but we should be taking photos. It's another way to promote our projects. It's a way to promote your chapter. I don't know about you, but I love engaging with people that are having fun. It's almost like that breath of fresh air, that time to kind of decompress, not focus on all the other things that are going on in life. If I see a group of people having fun, even when I'm, you know, at the gym or at the beach or at the park, I'm like, hey, those 7 people playing volleyball look like they're having a great time. I wonder, like, I want to be part of that group. Maybe I don't know them. Maybe I want to know them, but this is what is important. Not only should you be using it to promote your events and why you're a great organization and why your chapter is great and why this local person should join you, it just constantly kind of re-engages. People like photos, people like to see things. So I encourage that. Please submit your photos. Please look into photos. Please think about that. And if you don't have 6 photos, it's not like, oh my God, you're going to fail, you're going to lose points. But we're allowing you to submit up to 6 photos so we can get that visual while we're talking and while we're hearing you present your project. I am going to switch back to the internet. So, as stated, you have your ability to do that. Again, and from the submission page, you can also get to the single project entry page. The other thing is your PMG, when you fill it out, almost mirrors the questions that we just saw on the written resume. The benefit of that is if you write in your PMG, like we encourage you to, not only to help yourself, help your chapter and have projects continue on or be able to not have to start from scratch every time you do something. It also allows for a pretty easy submission process on your written resume. It's almost scary how similar they are. So the next thing that I want to kind of go over is the presentation. Okay. Presentations are one of the hardest parts, I think, of submitting your SPE. When we go over the grade sheet, you'll see some of the things you get credit for or points for to kind of raise your score is who's presenting. And I want to make this clear. While there are points associated with it, don't hesitate submitting a project just because your chair can't be available, or just because your chapter president can't be available to submit and talk about that project. Submit the project. I've seen chapters win awards without the chair and without the chapter president presenting. Idealistically, we want one of those 2 people to present. Why? Because as the chapter president, you're overseeing the chapter. You're overseeing what it's doing that year. you are invested to see that chapter succeed, which is why that's a great person to present. The chair, this is your baby. This is something you did. And again, we have co-chairs, so it doesn't, if myself and DeMarcus are co-chairing a project and we look at our calendar and I said, DeMarcus, I'm so sorry. My best friend's wedding's that day that, state board set the presentation. Can you please present this? DeMarcus is going to say, yeah, sure. I know. I'm just as passionate about you as you are, because this was our group. This was a team effort. We did this. We had all these great things. A lot of projects will have committee members, whether it's volunteer, whether it's, social media project, somebody on the committee that did something else to help promote or help make sure this project was wonderful. Any of those people can present. If you don't have any of those people, get a general member that went to the project or is familiar with the project, or somebody, sometimes we have this luxury in our chapters of having individuals who have gone through the board, who have been president or other things on the board and are familiar with this project, because you know what, it's a project that is near and dear to their heart, but they just don't always have the ability to be the chair of the project. That's okay too. Anybody you can get to present the project, it's kind of a succession order. Obviously, we want the chairs presenting. If not, then the chapter presidents. If not, then a committee member. But just because a general member shows up to present a project, again, doesn't mean the project doesn't win, doesn't mean the project can't win. It's a presentation. It's a small portion of the grade that goes into the numbers and all these other factors that go in. So find somebody to present your project. Don't give up hope, and don't just submit a project and say, well, we have no one to present it. There's always somebody that I believe should be able to present. Again, I'm just kind of given that I don't want projects to get discouraged because certain people can't be available on the day it needs to be presented. So make sure if your project is something that you're like, I need this to be submitted, I know we did a great job, have somebody help. Again, we're limited to 5 minutes. And part of the reason we do that is because realistically, if every project had an unlimited amount of time, most of us would probably be doing the judging till 6 or 7 at night. I love hearing how passionate people are about their projects, but it also gives us that ability to kind of hone in on our speaking, hone in on the highlights, make sure that we're focusing on that wow, bam, pow moment of our projects that the judges are like, you just blew us away. We're virtual. I know when I first started the JCs, we had in-person everything. Our single project entries were in person. Our skill building was in person. And sometimes that was easier, right? Because if you have a brochure from the project, or you had stickers that you were passing out at the project, or you had buttons, it is so much easier to pick them up, bring them, and hand them out to somebody and say, hey, look, judges, this is what was associated with our project. Again, remember, photos, visual, people like tangible things they can see, hold, visualize. But don't lose sight of that. If you have buttons that you've made, take pictures of them. Even if it's like, hey, I've got 12 pictures, you said I can only submit 6. Yeah, pick the best 6 and put the other 6 in the PowerPoint or some sort of visual aid that you are using to present. People want to see that. I think I'm a very entertaining person, but at some point I'm sure you're all going, okay, Sam, this is great. Let's see something else. I don't blame you. I understand. Again, as we talked about, this should complement the project. This should be highlighting areas of both good and areas of opportunity. I don't think there's ever a bad area of project. I mean, unless we burn down a building and do something crazy, get arrested, those are probably bad areas of a project. But I always say areas of opportunity, right? We didn't recruit the 10 members we wanted. We recruited 2. Okay. It's an opportunity. We don't have bad areas. We have areas of opportunity. But anybody that grows or presents or is doing anything knows we've got good, we've got areas of opportunity. Highlight both. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying, okay, here's everything we did great. Here's all of our area opportunities. Yeah, the project was successful. Make this fun. Make this engaging. Think about it. If you're not excited about it, why should the judges be? So those are things that I really think. Also, after you present, your speaking part or your, oral presentation, the judges have the opportunity to ask questions. Most of them will usually read your written resume before, and then after listening to you present, they're going to ask questions like, well, how do you better market this program next time? Or why did you only recruit 3 members? You kind of just mentioned you recruited 3 members, but you didn't say, why you didn't hit your goal. They're really trying to get you to think outside the box. We want to learn stuff. That's the whole point of this. We want to learn. We want to encourage you to be a better speaker. We want to encourage you to be more engaging, because if you can talk to us about your project, you're going to be able to go into your community and talk about your project. You're going to be able to hit your community and tell the community why they need to be engaged in this. I think it's extremely important. I think we forget some of those things. And I think, this is really a great opportunity. So I did mention that I was going to show you hang on one second. The grading sheets. So again, we do have grading sheets. So we have a few areas. So I don't have them labeled well. I apologize. So round 1 is what we refer to as the written submission. Okay. So as you see, there's kind of a breakdown, right? I'm just making sure. Can I get a thumbs up to make sure we can see this? Perfect. Thank you. So we have different areas. So the judges, we ask them to rate things like the submission and planning of the project. The submission follows rules, guidelines, and lacks spelling and grammatical errors. I am not perfect with spelling or grammatics, but this is still a professional organization. This is still an organization that is teaching you to grow and be better. And part of that is also learning to write better. I hate it, but I've got to do it too. A planning method was used and contributes to the success of the project. Remember, we talked about goals. We talked about who does what. Those are things that are included. How did this project grow? How did this project become more than just an idea? And does the project relate to the purpose and the result represented a positive impact? Remember, what are your goals? What were you trying to accomplish? Did the project accomplish that? Project participation, I think, is really hard. I think we've all been part of chapters, or even still are currently part of chapters where we know our base membership is, let's say, 30. And the same 6 people attend every project and the same 6 people help out. Please don't hang your hat on this alone. This is not an end all be all. It's one of the areas. The project showed appropriate use of chapter funds. I think as a whole, we're trying to encourage people to also build good projects. We don't want to run a project that's cost $1,000. Nobody shows up to, and it's not because nobody showed up because of the rain or something outside of your control, but because you literally just spent $1,000 and didn't spend a dime to market, didn't encourage anybody to promote your project. So it's really, is this something that kind of has a benefit? Are we just, saying, hey, we bought $1,000 in scratch off tickets and we won $50 back? Not a good use of funds. Created positive change through collaboration, had a purpose and it clearly was stated. Sustainable goals to meet future needs, improvements were suggested. Again, we're here to focus on how we grow, how we get better. And if we can't acknowledge that in our projects, we're definitely not going to grow or get better long term. Was there community impact? Did the project align with our mission, vision, and values? Like, is this simply like, hey, everyone went out drinking? Or is this, hey, yeah, there was alcohol, but also all these other things got accomplished. We were able to support local businesses. We were able to raise money for this event, or we were able to raise money for the chapter because, not only did we have, coffee and the ability for soda and different flavored waters. We also had some alcohol, but then we also did something fun like, I don't know, a dunk tank, and, we raise money for everything. So think about these things. And then again, when I told you that the placement of where the project is very critical. You can get up to 10 points on it. This is the written portion. The hope is, and I always encourage, I know last year I did, and I will again encourage the judges that are working on projects this year, give the person feedback, right? And feedback needs to be both positive and areas of opportunity. Because if I say, hey, great project, you're reading it and you're going, but you only gave me like 30 points. How do I get better? What can I do to improve? What was I missing? So there is the encouragement. I cannot promise, just like we know, we give directions to 20 people and 5 of them listen, okay? And I'm not knocking anybody, and sometimes we're volunteering our time and we're helping and we're doing this, and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, some family emergency was going to come up or something like that. Luckily, we have a team of 3, and each person has the ability to write feedback, and each person has the ability to give positive and the ability to have area of opportunities. So you might not get 3 detailed paragraphs on things that you did well and things that you can improve on, but there will be some sort of feedback. I went through so many grading sheets last year, and it was very rare that I didn't find at least something positive in some area for them to, hey, try this next time, or some words of encouragement or something like that. So that's what this area is for. The other area is the actual presentation. And like I said, everything has its kind of points. Again, we will share these with you if you ask. This is not some top secret thing. If you've ever presented a project, the grading sheets have been pretty consistent. They haven't dramatically changed. And I think the goals are intended to be the same. Time limit. Were you within 5 minutes, or were you super under or super over? You get points. Again, who was the presenter? Was it the presenter of the project? Presenter was from the chapter, or sorry, thoughts to move my Zoom screen. Or the presenter was not involved in the project. Again, you can still have a presenter who is a general member. You are still getting a point. The chair gets you 2 more points, but if those 2 points 9 times out of 10 are not going to make or break this project. Other things you get graded on. Presentation skills. Do you sit and go, and then we did this? No one's going to learn from that. No one's excited about that project because you're not excited about that project. Your organization. Are you like, oh, we went to the zoo and then we saw the penguins and then we saw this, but let me tell you about the penguins. And it's like, I can't follow you. So I'm sure I'm losing value of how amazing that project was. Clarity. We're talking about, here was the goals, here's what we accomplished, and here's why it was great, and here's where we can improve. Impact. What did the project do? How did it make a difference? Whether it made a difference on the chapter, the community, an individual, all those things are important. Assessment. Again, we have to be realistic. No project is perfect. Projects are they're awesome, they function, they do great things, but there's always a way to make that project just a tad bit better, or reach a handful of more people, or make just that little bit more of an impact. So don't forget, don't be oblivious, don't pretend like that doesn't exist. Acknowledge those things. Complements the written portion. Again, we are not asking you to put every detail in your written submission, because then what do you have to present? I don't want to have a what I call a regurgitation of everything I just read. Give me something new, tell me why this is great, and sell me your project. And then substantiation. We talked about this. Bring something. Do a PowerPoint. Share additional pictures. Tell them that you had a flyer. Share a picture of the flyer, right? I understand that you're not going to be like, hang on, let me email you all these things. But you can present it. Even if it's like, you know what? I don't need a PowerPoint because I had this really cool, what is the trifold things? I had to think of what it was called. And you have the ability to like pull it up. Most of them are done in some sort of, either digital art program. I know you can do it in Word documents, something like that. Bring it up and show us. Show us what you presented to the community. Show us what you were doing. You want to know why? Because that gives us that visual need that we need. Nobody wants to just hear us talk. Unfortunately, that's what some of these trainings become, but I want to be very thorough on what I can access, how I can help you, how we as the programming team really want to see the best for you. So we've kind of gone over the different parts of this single project entry. We've talked about how important each portion is and really what you should be focusing on. I know we need to get better at kind of giving examples, and hopefully in the next year or so, we can really have an opportunity to put maybe 1 or 2 really awesome examples together that have either won awards or came very close to being the top project, because I know we have some amazing people out there that have presented and have just done a phenomenal job. So let's talk about submissions. This is the last part. This is kind of that you've done all this work. Now what? Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn on the light. It's dark. All right. Now what? So specifically here, we've been talking about single project entries. You are going to click on the photo. This is the way the website's set up. And once you click on the photo, maybe you are going to get directed to the submissions portal. Submission portal, I think, is pretty specific. Okay. So first thing, you are going to submit your documents in PDF. And this is so then that way, when the programming team or any of the judges have access to them, it's not being downloaded in a different format. If you have a MacBook and you download a Word document, it turns it into Pages. If you submitted it on Pages and then you have a PC, now I can't open it. PDF opens on all computers. We're asking that you do a PDF. We're also asking that you kind of follow at the top, project/chapter or underscore chapter underscore your last name. We have a drop-down menu. Please select your chapter you're from, your name as the person that's submitting it, your email, your phone number. Sometimes we don't have the ability to have you present in person. And if you want to be able to put a headshot there, you can. This is not mandatory. I've never understood why this was mandatory outside of the first year of COVID. And that was because we weren't in person and we used the headshots to say, hey, congratulations. This is the person that presented really well and won this project for us. You don't get to walk across the stage or collect your awards in person, but here's this. So if you want to upload a headshot, we encourage it. It is not mandatory. Then there's the ability to upload your document, again, your written resume and your substantiation. This is where the photos are going. This is where if you want to attach a brochure, that's fine. But again, still don't forget the substantiation during your presentation also needs to exist. So if you give everything to us in here, again, we're losing that opportunity to bring that pizzazz, that bam, wow, pow that you want when you're presenting your project. If the president or if somebody else is submitting the project, but a second person is going to present, please provide that email. It is a requirement, but we want to be able to reach out to the person that is presenting, because if I send you an email because you submitted the project and somebody else is presenting, they're not going to get times. They're not going to be told when to appear. And then it gets lost in transition. And I don't want to do that. If your project is this amazing that you took the time to submit it, make sure we have the right person or who it needs to go to. Any notes you think we need to know, like, hey, Sam, I submitted this, but DeMarcus is presenting. Please make sure you use that email. And the last thing is I want us to acknowledge, and we ask everybody on all submissions that you understand that judging and presentations will happen July 15th. So that way, hopefully we are, again, not only because of the save the dates and all the conversations you've had from your district directors or hopefully your presidents, you yourself know as well that somebody needs to be available July 15th to put this together to present, because otherwise your project is only half graded. Excuse me, only half graded. And it could be an amazing project that didn't win solely because it lost all the points of the presentation. So make sure you have someone available. Again, it doesn't matter who, just make sure someone's available. And if it's, hey, a general member's presenting, spend some time with them, even if it's a half hour someday running into July 15th, because it's amazing when people have the opportunity to review PowerPoints or review substantiation or talk to the person that was a chair or the president about the project on why this could really be helpful. That is pretty much everything that comes to the SPE portion, the submission portion. I'm going to send us back. Also, part of the semester we do at semesters, we do our skill building. And just briefly, very similar the same way. Click on the photo. Again, chapter name, email, your phone number, so that if for some reason you don't show up to present, we can get a hold of you, try to call or text you. And then what skill building opportunity are you submitting for? You know, there's the prepared write-up, the impromptu write-up, the prepared speak up, master speak up, impromptu speak up, create it. This again will have a, you understand everything's July 15th. That's is primarily focused on speak up and your impromptu write-up. Speak up, you have to be present the day of July 15th. And impromptu write-up, we don't release the topics ahead of time. We don't tell you what they are. They get it the day of. They have a time 30 minutes to do, and then they submit that day. Prepared write-up topic along with created is out right now. It's been posted on Post It Here. Some of the district pages have it. I'm trying not to put the same topic on the same page, so that we kind of are getting a circulation of different, and JCI Michigan has been posting it. So please be careful. Please take a look at those. I love skill building. It's probably my favorite area. I love single project entries. I don't want to take away from that, but I really fell in love with skill building. It was probably what really drew me to programming and wanting to take this role on and making sure that people continue to grow. The other thing that I always say is I don't think people realize that putting together a single project entry, you cover so many of our skill building. You cover writing, you cover speaking, and you actually cover a part of create it. Might not be as creative as some people, but the fact is when you're putting that substantiation together, that is some sort of creating things. You're either creating the correct photos for us to see. You're creating a brochure, you're creating a PowerPoint, all of that goes into it. So I think we forget sometimes how easy a lot of this could come and not realize how much we use it as we're doing other things in JCI, but really that's what it comes down to. We all try to build different areas and we try to help individuals grow who they are, so they are more confident or they are more, able to talk about projects in the community. So I want to thank everybody. I know my team is on, so I am going to ask each of them individually if there's anything they have learned from presenting or have seen or heard in conversations or any other tips and tricks they can give. Krista, I am going to start with you. Anything that you would like to add or provide as a support for our members?
I would just say, also be willing to sign up for judging too, even if you haven't presented before. Judging is also a great opportunity to learn. And it also brings you on the other side of the presentations too. And it can definitely help you with your presentation skills too. So highly encourage judging as well if you haven't yet. And then second thing that I learned when I did my presentation, there is a history of the project section. And if you have a project that's been running for years and your chapter's been running it for years, look at your Facebook page, like your chapter's Facebook page, and you will probably have pictures of the event from previous years on there. And that's a great thing to throw into your presentation. So highly recommend doing that as well.
Thanks, Krista. Mariah, I know you kind of joined us as we were going through the training. Are anything that you have for tips and tricks. I believe you've been fortunate enough to present a few projects for single project entry. Any words of advice?
Yeah, so I've only presented once. But I will say the thing that helped me the most was I reached out to a couple people in my chapter who had presented in the past. So I reached out to Kimmy, Chris, and my brother Douglas. And they all sent me SPEs and presentations that they had presented in the past for different projects. And that's honestly what helped me the most because I had not like seen one before, I'd never judged. And so I had no idea what I was doing prior to. And so seeing how each one of them built theirs differently and like seeing common trends and stuff like that, that helped me immensely. So I just recommend to everybody, like, don't be afraid to reach out to, other current members or even, past members, senators, anything, because people should be willing to help you and send you information. I haven't encountered anybody gatekeeping their information. And even if, nobody in your chapter has anything, like reach out to your, sister chapters, people nearby, and see if anybody can share anything with you because I feel like there's always something to learn.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, given that, I think if my tip or trick is if you are not the chapter or the chair of the project and you are helping present, again, spend some time with the chair of the project. If you did not attend the project, make sure you read the written submission because sometimes the chair will do the written submission and then you are taking over and saying, okay, yeah, I'll help and I'll present. Know what's in the written submission because again, we want to make sure we're kind of complementing the written submission. We don't want to regurgitate the written submission. So I think that's really key here. I think understanding that there's always some sort of question on how could you do X better, depending on what area highlighted for the judge, it's usually how could you have done, how could you have brought more members, something like that. All of which is important. It's just, it's not a guarantee you'll be asked questions, but it's a strong possibility that it's going to happen. And I don't want anyone to be blindsided. And I think, look, do we have every answer to every question? No, but I think making sure you're familiar with what you're presenting or knowing the project and not just being like, hey, I went there and I had a whole bunch of beers and that's what I can tell you. It's important, you're doing this not just for, you to gain some of those skills, but also to highlight this amazing thing that meant so much to either a fellow member or the chapter, or maybe both. So any questions, again, programs@jcimi.org. Again, jcimi.org is our home website. There is in the right-hand side if you're staring at it, but probably, yeah, right-hand side if you're staring at it, a login area. If you hit login, maybe I'm just old. Oh, they actually have me finally logged in. Okay. If you hit login, when you register here, we'll have a username and a password that will, am I still sharing? Cool. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. We'll have a username and password, hit login. Under member resources, I mentioned at the beginning that if we had time, I was going to do this. We have a document library and a training library. Our training library, if you click on it, has some of our past training, some of our things that have been done. So like glue up administration, glue up for members. We had a life insurance training. We had Black History Month discussion, our chapter plan training. There are a few that we are missing and I will follow up to make sure. Hopefully we can, the PMG one on there as well. We have the opportunity to really use those things. Kind of check it out, get to know some of these. It's great. Again, another thing is our document library. bylaws, constitution, stuff like that. I know that's not necessarily our submissions, but it is important. Diversity and inclusion resources, chapter plans, kind of the basics, your elections, your handbooks, and glue up stuff. So there is some resources that I want to make sure you know, along with the online learning center for JCI USA, JCI, and then there's a DEI page. Really take advantage of the resources that we have. I think they're great. And if these aren't working for you, get in touch with myself, get in touch with the programming team. If they don't have answers, I'm happy to help. If I can't help, I know someone that can. That was actually a conversation I had last night. I'm usually pretty good at making sure the resources our members need are existing. Being that for the most part, I'm assuming being it's summer, it was a very busy night for individuals. DeMarcus, I'm going to kind of pick on you. Is there any questions that you have?
I don't have any right now. It's just kind of being a sponge. Like it's my first time doing a submission or presentation, so I'm just kind of absorbing all the knowledge.
Perfect. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help you succeed. We do want to see the best, and we know that our projects deserve this like special attention. And I can't tell you one chapter that doesn't do some sort of project that deserves the ability to be recognized. And if your projects, you know, are in the second half of the year, don't forget we have year end. It works the same way. But don't be shy, because, you know, some of the projects that you're just like, I don't know, this doesn't sound like anything anybody would be interested in, really sometimes turns out to be the coolest things or really fascinating things. So don't discredit yourself. Know that if it was important enough for you to invest your time in, it's important enough for us to hear about. And sometimes it's that, oh, well, it was just some silly idea, and it actually is something that other chapters are interested in or want to learn more about. On top of maybe getting a cool award, I mean, that's like just the cherry on top. So we hope that you submit. We hope that you take the time. And again, any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to programs@jcimi.org, and or you can reach out to me on Facebook. Either will work. And we appreciate your time tonight. I want to thank you and have a wonderful night. All right.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Stop cloud.